Welcome to the Rules of Engagement. What's up, everybody? As always, I'm your host, Nick axslav Ranish. In this show, we explore strategies and tactics used in the game of Starcraft 2. Today, we're going to look at a couple of the games from the MLG Winter Championships at Dallas. Those games, of course, will be the Flash versus Red series. We're going to start off talking about game number 1, then game number 2, and game number 3. And, of course, at the end, it's going to be the viewer Q&A. So submit all your questions to me at axslav. And this is a pretty awesome series. Of course, Flash won because he's Flash. But Rhett made a lot of great moves here, and he really pushed Flash to the limits throughout this series. So first, we'll talk about game number 1, and a couple things we're going to bring about and really focus on when we're looking at game number 1 are going to be when you're going fast 3C, which is a very strong Terran build. Most of the top Terrans are actually doing it very consistently against Zerg now. Basically, what's important to scout and watch out for. Then we're going to talk about defending counterattacks, which of course is another theme of Terran versus Zerg. Zerg's always looking to use mobility to launch counterattacks. As Terran, what's the best way to help mitigate that? And then we're going to talk about multi-prong aggression, when to do it, and something to make sure if you choose to do multi-prong aggression to make it as effective as possible. So we're going to jump into this replay. We're going to jump into it at the 7-minute mark. We're going to take a look at Flash's build. So we're going to take this just from Flash's viewpoint. We're going to play it out here. And one thing we noticed right away is, of course, the very fast third CC, right? He built a third CC before he built a third production build, just barracks factory, then straight to that third command center. So what's important to do is if you do a build like this, you need to make sure that if your opponent is going to attack you with a lot of roaches, a lot of banings, whatever it is, you need to make sure that you can see that coming. So that's why if we look from Flash's vision, he spreads a couple units out so you can look at both paths that his opponent could attack him from. And yes, if he doesn't react instantly and roaches come, these Hellions might die. But as long as you react very fast, you can often even avoid speedlings, as well as, of course, easily avoid roaches. And this, having them this far out will give you that warning time to prepare extra defenses. Depending on what you see, you could easily retreat your SCVs into the main and sacrifice the low ground if it's a very committed all-in. Or you could build 2 more bunkers here, raise your depots, and get SCVs in the front ready to repair. There's a lot of different options you can do. The important thing is that warning that they're attacking you, you have to have units out to have as much time as possible to react to an attack. Now, as we go forward here, we're going to see, of course, Flash is just powering up all his production. You know, he's using the factory to build reactors for all his barracks. Meanwhile, he's getting stim packs so he can micro the Marines better. He's trying to play catch-up in production because, of course, his initial couple of barracks are a little bit later because getting that faster CC. So, cranking out a ton of production, of course, getting the upgrades as well is important. And as he progresses over the next few minutes, once his production kicks in, he's going to be looking to attack, right? Take the benefit of his fast third CC and the extra economy. Once that production kicks in, you want to move out and start putting some damage onto your opponent. So, first step is get your third set up, make sure that's safe. Then, you know, make sure you control the space between your natural and third. You can defend and attack from either direction. Ideally, you put a bunker here to help stop speeding run-bys. You put a missile turret to help prevent mutalists from attacking you. And eventually, you want to wall this place off with depots. But going forward, if there hits a point, usually around a 12 to 13-minute mark, you might want to put on some aggression. Sometimes you wait a little bit longer, but let's say you want to put on some aggression. One of the biggest threats that can happen is as your army here moves out, the Zerg can then attack along this left side of the map and go do a devastating counterattack. So, as a Terran player, what are some things you do to make sure they can't counterattack you? Number 1, as much advanced warning as possible, right? So as you push out here, either have a Marine, an SCV, a Hellion, a Widowmine, something to spot a counterattack so you have reaction time. You can see how many units there are and then make a judgment. Do I need to raise the depots? Do I need to evacuate the natural and raise these depots? Is it that big of an attack? And then just let my rallied units hold top of my main. Or is it something that's pretty small? My rallied units over here can defend it without a problem. You make that value judgment, and you can make that judgment and have time to save all your workers as long as you have that scout out there in the front. Widowmines make a particularly great scout because it probably won't die. It's invisible. And it can actually kill a couple units as well as they cross over it. And it's a very cheap unit as well. So, 3 reasons to use Widowmines: cheap, damaging, and most likely won't die. So great use of Widowmines. They cover the counterattacks. Make sure you basically make sure you're not caught by surprise by counterattack. That's the most dangerous counterattack, is the one that gets you by surprise. So going forward, now we're going to talk about multi-pronged aggressions. As we can see here, Flash just killed some creep tumors on this side, using Widowmines just to, again, secure counterattack, right? As his army moves up to this side, where could the counterattack hit from? It would attack along the bottom lane. He wants to make sure he can see it coming and then be able to react appropriately. Of course, another counterattack can be along the very bottom, and that's why he walls off with these depots. Yes, a couple Banings can knock him down, but it'll force your opponent to at least morph Banings, commit more to the counter, and again, it'll buy you time as Banings move a little bit slower than Speedings. Gives you a little bit more time to react to defend. The bunker here is like a second layer of defense that can buy you even more time to get ready to defend. As we can see here, the next thing Flash is doing is he's attacking with one force over here, and he's attacking with another army across the bottom. And one thing that makes this very, very strong is that his opponent, right, his opponent might have an army in this section of the map, and it's very hard to react to both these forces, right? Most players typically keep all their army together because they want to have the best odds coming into a battle. And so, in fact, if you look at what Rhett's doing, that's exactly what he's doing. Rhett has most of his army together, right? I mean, there's a few guys here. Those guys are going to die, though. Basically, his whole army's here. Mutalists, Speedlings, Banings. And if you attack from multiple spots, what happens is that Rhett has to choose one to defend, or he has to very quickly make a judgment of how to split up his army and try to defend both, which is a very hard judgment to make. And he has a very small amount of time to make it because his bases are under attack right now. If you're doing this multi-prong attack, it's a great technique, but one thing you need to do, make sure that each of your prongs can retreat easily. So notice that he has 11 Marines here and 3 Marauders, right? He has 2 medevacs. That can pick up 10 Marines and 3 Marauders, so 1 Marine will get the short end of the stick and not be able to escape. But basically, he can retreat with his entire force here if Rhett sends his whole army to attack here. On the other hand, this force is the same thing. He can't quite pick up the entire section, but he can pick up about 2/3 of it. With the 2 medevacs. So, again, you know, he might have to ditch the Hellions, but that's okay. He can still get the majority of units out. Make sure when you do multi-prong attacks, each of your forces has the ability to retreat. So look at this from Flash's viewpoint. He sees an army here. He retreats this section. And then using control groups, right? You don't have to move your screen down here. You can see, okay, I know I saw a bunch of units over here, so I'm going to keep an eye on this section and just hit my second control group, hit my number 2 key, and on the mini-map, you can hit 2A and just tell him to attack this 4th base. That's exactly what Flash does. He controls the army that's into threat, and on the minimap, he moves into second army. Now, he sees blue there, so he jumps down. He saw there were Banings. He picked units up, got them out of there, scanned, realized it was just small Banings. You can control whichever force has the smaller threat on the minimap, and the other force you control using your actual screen. Of course, he's Flash, so he's macroing perfectly behind it all as well, up to 185 food already. Keep pushing in here. But remember, again, make sure each force can retreat, because let's say that you didn't have enough medevacs for this section. If Rhett attacks this with his entire army, your other force here, yes, he may get in here and kill a base. But a hatchery is actually worth less than this many units in most situations. So it's good to trick them to get the hatchery kill, but you want to also be able to try to escape with as many of your units as possible. As we can see here, Rhett comes in and he attacks. Flash is able to use Ignite Afterburners, and he should be able to escape with these medevacs and these units. In fact, he's not even bothering to use Ignite Afterburners. I think it was on cooldown. But now he learned more of the Widow Mines, escapes. Easily he can escape over the Widow Mines. Meanwhile, this force is killing this base here and throwing a little drop in as well. So, yes, killing the base is great, but if you can't preserve all these medevacs and all the units, it's not as good, because then Rhett can turn around and squash this force easily. Whereas now, even if Rhett had a significant food count and he could squash this force, this second force would still be a threat to come back here and kill this 4th base. It's exactly what we see here. Rhett turns around, deals with the drop. Now he's going to turn around and maybe be able to deal with this army to front. But again, he can't deal with this army because this army never died, right? Even when Rhett turned his full attention to it, Flash was able to micro it away. Very important anytime you have multiple control groups. Again, see that? Always be able to escape with as much as possible your force, so that even though, yes, you're trading an army for a base, but ideally you're not trading an actual army, you're just trading a piece of an army. So it's not even that big a deal. And then from here on, of course, Flash is up by about 70 food. He just pushes in to get that win relatively easily. So looking at this map, it looks like, wow, Flash made that look simple. But it's important to note that Rhett was actually macroing insanely well here. If we jump back to, like around, let's actually pause it and do that. If we jump back to, let's say, like the 12-minute mark, he was pretty much neck and neck with Flash at this point. I mean, you can see here 127 food to 121. In fact, Rhett actually is about to build a big burst of units as well as soon as his spire completes. So he's doing neck and neck with Flash. Flash, of course, probably still macroing a little bit better. Terran usually should be a little bit below there, as his production is just now kicking in. But the idea is that he got he compounded his macro advantage by attacking at multiple locations, and most importantly, making sure that whichever location was in threat of being overwhelmed, he quickly retreated and salvaged as much of that army as possible, while his other army went in and did damage. So it wasn't just trading units here to do damage here, it was doing damage here and then preserving the units on the other side as well. So anytime you do multi-pronged aggression, I see a lot of people do that, and they're like, I killed 3 Nexuses and I lost to the Protoss. They're ridiculously overpowered. This is silly. Well, how many medevacs full units did you lose to kill 3 Nexuses, right? If the answer is like 6, 7, 8, that's not good. That doesn't actually mean you were being successful. It means you thought you were being successful and you're really just losing a whole lot of your guys, you know, not caring about their lives. So you don't want to leave the men behind. Pick them up, save them. Saving your lives is just as good as doing damage. This wraps up analysis of game number 1. Game number 2, Ret strikes back with some really strong play. We'll check it out after a short break.